Welcome back to another edition of Snack Time with a Dollop of Read Aloud. I hope, boys and girls, you've been enjoying what you've been reading or what you've been listening to so far. We're going to continue with Number the Stars by Lois Lowry, with permission granted by Houghton Mifflin Publishing for me to be able to share this with you today. Now, when we last left Annemarie and Ellen, holy smokes, yesterday was quite the read aloud. Something happened. What happened? Let me hear. What happened? Yes. So, just to recap, Ellen is now a Johansen. In fact, she's pretending or acting, because she wants to be an actor and not a teacher, she's pretending to be Liesel Johansen. Now, she had very little time to practice her role because that same night, Nazi soldiers banged on the door so early in the morning, waking up the whole family except for, thank goodness, not Kirsty. And while they were there, the soldiers were yelling and poking and searching their house. The girls had to pretend that Ellen was in fact a Johansen. And something happened because the soldiers absolutely did not believe that the dark-haired one, we know that is Ellen, was really part of the family. Something happened. Really quick thinking on Papa's part made it so the soldiers had no other choice but to leave. What did Papa do? And why was that effective? Let me listen. I want to hear if you remember. That's right. Good recall, boys and girls. Papa, he thought quickly. And that was really probably what saved the entire family, because the soldiers didn't seem like they wanted to be dealing with them any longer than they had to. And I think that their time at the apartment was probably coming to a close, and they would probably be arresting the whole Johansen family if Papa didn't come up with the idea of the pictures in the phone book. Or not the phone book, the photo album. So he went and he brought out the 3 pictures of his 3 daughters. Kirsty, who was asleep, Annemarie, who was there in the living room with them, as well as a dark-haired baby picture that really was Liesel in real life, but now it's supposed to be Ellen. So Papa's quick thinking really saved them. But I have to tell you, boys and girls, the rising action is really still going. There's still things that are going to be happening to Annemarie, Ellen, and the Johansen family. So let's tune back in and find out what's happening. Because if you thought chapter 5 was exciting, the next few chapters are going to top that. I love this book. Have I told you that before? I love it. All right, here we go. Chapter 6. Is the weather good for fishing? We must think what to do, Papa said. They are suspicious now. To be honest, I thought that if they came here at all, and I hoped that they wouldn't, that they would just glance around and see that we had no place to hide anyone, and they would go away. I'm sorry I have dark hair, Ellen murmured. It made them suspicious. Mama reached over and took Ellen's hand. You have beautiful hair, Ellen, just like your mama's, she said. Don't ever be sorry for that. Weren't we lucky that Papa thought so quickly and found those pictures? And weren't we lucky that Liesel had dark hair when she was a baby? It turned blonde later on, when she was 2 or so. In between, Papa added, she was bald for a while. Ellen and Annemarie both smiled tentatively. For a moment their fear was eased. Tonight was the first time Annemarie realized, suddenly, that Mama and Papa had spoken of Liesel. Truthfully, it was the first time in 3 years. Outside, the sky was beginning to lighten. Mrs. Johansen went to the kitchen and began to make tea. I've never been up so early before, Annemarie complained. Ellen and I will probably fall asleep in school today. Papa rubbed his chin for a moment, thinking, I think we must not take the risk of sending you to school. It is possible that they will be looking for Jewish children at the schools. No, not go to school? Ellen asked in amazement. My parents have always told me that education is the most important thing. Whatever happens, I must get an education. This will only be a vacation, Ellen. For now, your safety is the most important thing. I'm sure your parents would agree. Inga? Papa called Mama into the kitchen. Inga is Mrs. Johansen's name. And she came into the doorway with a teacup in her hand and a questioning look on her face. Yes, we must take the girls to Henrique's. You remember what Peter told us. I think today is the day to go to your brothers. Mrs. Johansen nodded. Yes, dear, I think you are right. But I will take them. You must stay here. Stay here and let you go alone? Of course not. I won't send you on such a dangerous trip by yourself. Mama put a hand on Papa's arm. If only I go with the girls, it will be safer. They are unlikely to suspect a woman with her children. But if they are watching us, if they see us all leave, if they are aware that the apartment is now empty, that you don't go to your office this morning, then they will know. And then it will be dangerous. I am not afraid to go alone. It was seldom that Mama disagreed with Papa. Annemarie watched his face and knew that he was struggling with the decision. Finally, he nodded. I will pack some things, Mama said. What time is it? Papa looked at his watch. It's almost 5, he said. Henrique will still be there. He leaves around 5. Why don't you call him? Papa went to the telephone. Ellen looked puzzled. Who's Henrique? And where does he go at 5 in the morning? She asked. Annemarie laughed. He's my uncle, my mother's brother, and he's a fisherman. They leave very early, all the fishermen, each morning. Their boats go out at sunrise. Oh, Ellen, she went on, you will love it there. It's where my grandparents lived, where Mama and Uncle Henrique grew up. It is so beautiful. Right on the water, you can stand at the edge of the meadow and look across to Sweden. She listened while Papa spoke on the telephone to Uncle Henrique, telling him that Mama and the children were coming for a visit. Ellen had gone into the bathroom and closed the door. Mama was still in the kitchen, so only Annemarie was listening. It was a very puzzling conversation. So, Henrique, is the weather good for fishing? Papa asked cheerfully and listened carefully. Then he continued, I'm sending Inga to you today with the children, and she will be bringing you a carton of cigarettes. Yes, that's right, just one, he said after a moment. Annemarie couldn't hear Uncle Henrique's words, but there are a lot of cigarettes available in Copenhagen now, if you know where to look, he went on. And so there will be others coming to you as well, I'm sure. But it wasn't true. Annemarie had been quite certain that it wasn't true. Cigarettes were one of the things that Papa missed the most, just the way that Mama missed her coffee. He complained often. He complained only yesterday, in fact, that there were no cigarettes in the stores. The men in the office, he said, making a face, smoked anything. Sometimes dried weeds rolled in paper, and the smell was awful. Why was Papa speaking that way? Almost as if he was speaking in a code. Why was Mama really taking, or what was Mama really taking to Uncle Henrique? And then she knew. Not what Mama was taking, but who. It was Ellen. The train ride north along the Danish coast was very beautiful. Again and again they could see the sea from the windows. Annemarie had made this trip often to visit her grandparents when they were alive, and later, after they were gone, to see the cheerful, sun-tanned, unmarried uncle whom she loved very much. But the trip was new to Ellen, who sat with her face pressed to the window, watching the lovely homes along the seaside, the small farms and villages. Look, Annemarie exclaimed, and pointed to the opposite side. It's Klampenborg and the deer park. Oh, I wish we could stop there just for a little while. Mama shook her head. Not today, she said. The train did not stop at the small Klampenborg station, but none of the few passengers got off. Have you ever been there, Ellen? Mama asked, but Ellen said no. Well, someday you will go. Someday you will walk through the park and you will see hundreds of deer, tame and free. Kirsty wriggled to her knees and peered through the window. I don't see deer, she complained. They are there, I'm sure, Mama told her. They're hiding in the trees. The train started again. The door at the end of the car stopped, or the door at their car opened, and 2 German soldiers appeared. Annemarie tensed. Not here, not on the train too. They seem to be everywhere. Together the soldiers strolled through the car, glancing at passengers, stopping here and there to ask questions. One of them had something stuck in his tooth, and he probed it with his tongue. He was doing that with his teeth. And distorted his own face. Annemarie watched with a kind of frightened fascination as the pair approached. One of the soldiers looked down with a bored expression on his face. Where are you going? He asked. Gilagi, Mama replied calmly. My brother lives there. We are going to visit him. The soldier turned away and Annemarie relaxed. Then, without warning, he turned back. Are you visiting your brother for the New Year? He asked suddenly. Mama stared at him with a puzzled look. New Year? Really? It's only October. And guess what? Kirsty exclaimed suddenly in a loud voice, looking at the soldier. Anne-Marie's heart sank, and she looked at her mother. Mama's eyes were frightened. Shh, Kirsty, Mama said. Don't chatter so. But Kirsty paid no attention to Mama. As usual, she looked carefully at the soldier, and Annemarie knew what she was going to say. It's not our New Year. It's our friend here, Ellen's New Year. Remember, the Jewish New Year was the night that the soldiers arrived at their apartment, the night that Ellen became a Johansen. But she didn't. Instead, Kirsty pointed at her feet. I'm going to visit my Uncle Henrique, she chirped, and I'm wearing my brand new shiny black shoes. The soldier chuckled and moved on. Annemarie gazed through the window again. The trees, the Baltic Sea, and the cloudy October sky passed in a blur as they continued north along the coast. Smell the air, Mama said when they stepped off the train and made their way to the narrow street. Isn't it lovely and fresh? It always brings back such wonderful memories for me. The air was breezy and cool and carried the sharp, not unpleasant smell of salt and fish. High against the pale clouds, seagulls soared and cried out as if they were mourning. Mama looked at her watch. I wonder if Henrique will be back yet. But it doesn't matter. The house is always unlocked. Come on, girls, we'll walk. It isn't far, just a little under 2 miles. And it's such a nice day. We'll take the path through the woods instead of the road. It's a little longer, but it is so pretty. Didn't you love the castle when you went through Helensburg? Or Helensburg, Ellen? Kirsty asked, as she had been talking about Kronborg Castle ever since they had seen it. Sprawling, massive, and ancient beside the sea from the train. I wish we could have stopped there to see the castles. Kings live there, you know. And queens. Annemarie sighed in exasperation with her little sister. They do not, she said. They did in the olden days, but there aren't any kings there now. Denmark has only one king, and anyways, he lives in Copenhagen. But Kirsty had pranced away, skipping along the sidewalk. Kings and queens, she sang happily as she skipped. Mama shrugged and smiled. Let her dream, Annemarie. I did the same when I was her age. She turned, leading the way along a tiny twisting street, heading towards the outskirts of the village. Things have hardly changed since I was a little girl, she said. My Aunt Gitta lived here, or lived there in the house, she pointed. But she's been dead for years. But the house is just the same. She always had wonderful flowers in her garden. She peered over the low stone wall and looked at the few flowering bushes as they passed the house. Maybe they still do, but it's the wrong time of year. There are just a few chrysanthemums left. And see over there, she pointed again. My best friend, her name was Helena, lived in that house. Sometimes I used to spend the night with her, but more often she came to my house on the weekends. It was more fun to be in the country. My brother Henrique always teased us, though. She continued to chuckle. He told us ghost stories and would scare us both half to death. The sidewalk ended and Mama turned onto a dirt path bordered by trees. When I walked each morning into town for school, she said, my dog would follow me this far. At the end of the path, he would turn and run back home. I guess he was a country dog and didn't much care for the town. And do you know what? She went on, smiling. I named him Trophist. It means faithful. And it was just the right name for him because he was as faithful as a dog could be. Every afternoon, he was always right here waiting for me to return. He knew the right time somehow. Sometimes, as I come around the bend, even today, I feel as if I might come upon him. My Trophist, waiting still with his tag wagging happily. But the path was empty today. No people, no faithful dogs. Mama shifted the bag she was carrying from one hand to the other, and as they walked on through the woods until the path opened to a meadow dotted with cows, here the path skirted the edge of the field, along a fence, and beyond it they could see the gray sea ruffled by the wind. The breeze moved the high grass, and at the end of the pasture they entered the woods again, and Annemarie knew they would soon be there. Uncle Heinrich's house was in the clearing beyond the woods. Do you mind if I run ahead? She asked suddenly. I want to be the first to see the house. Go on, Mama told her. Run ahead and tell the house that we'll be there soon. Then she put her arm around Ellen's shoulder and she added, and tell the house that we've brought a friend. All right, so boys and girls, that was an important chapter. Might not have been as exciting as chapter 5 with the Nazis showing up, but it definitely was important because now you're going to meet a new character, Uncle Henrique, and you're going to discover that all is not lost. I'm also going to attach for you a little quick clip of a video that I made for you, and I wanted to show you Europe before the war started, Europe once the war started, which is when Number of the Stars is happening during the war. And I want you to really see where Denmark is and where Sweden is in comparison and how that is so important to the story going forward. So watch a quick little video. It's only like 2 or 3 minutes about where and when the story is taking place, where Denmark is, because I know it's hard to kind of imagine it if you've never really thought about that place before. And I want you to really think how the mood, because we've been talking about mood a lot, how the mood has changed. And also, boys and girls, please think about Annemarie as a character. Think about how you would describe her as a character and why. That is the same work that you should be doing for your literary essay when you're talking about the character in the picture book that you're reading and why. So think about Annemarie. So Annemarie is blank kind of person because, and then some evidence to support it. That's what I'd really like for you to kind of focus on. You can tell me about the mood, but I really want you to tell me, describe the character trait that you would use to describe Annemarie, and then tell me why. All right? So we'll read together tomorrow. I hope you enjoyed chapter 6 of Number of the Stars. And once more, I miss you. I love you. And I hope you stayed safe. Bye, guys.